Crime is on the rise. You all knew this. I don't know why you clicked this video because you already knew this. But, well, to be fair, no, look, it's worse than you think. It's worse than I thought. I did highlight this story earlier on, but check this out. Police wrestle with surge in crime in U.S. cities amid defunding efforts. Ocasio-Cortez said in an interview, perhaps the rise in crime in New York City is due to people being hungry. Yes, I'm sure the man who was walking with his 6-year-old daughter crossing the street was shot in the back because the guy driving the car who pulled up and shot him and then drove off was hungry. It makes no sense, man. Crime is on the rise because in certain jurisdictions like New York City, they've completely removed, they've reassigned a 600-person crime prevention unit. To be fair, okay, this was, I believe they did stop and frisk. You've got a serious struggle between freedom and security. And this to me is a real ethical conundrum. I got to say, man, I do not like stop and frisk. Stop and frisk was overtly targeting minority communities. And Bloomberg said it was because they profiled people. I don't like it. But I can recognize there are problems in these communities with crime and violence. And now without stop and frisk, and when they did the bail reform, we saw crime go up. How do you solve these problems, man? The problems are deep. They're rooted deep, man. It's not just, you can't walk up to somebody and just arrest them and think it's all going to go away. That's not going to solve the problem. The problem is community. The problem is family. The problem is culture. There's a lot of problems. And it's not about race. That's why I absolutely detested stop and frisk. Because Bloomberg made it that. The dude was not smart enough to understand the problems of his own city. So you know what? Good riddance. Now, does it mean we should get rid of the crime prevention unit? No. Okay. No, it doesn't. It means you need to just figure out, just like abolishing police is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Okay. You know why? Maybe stop and frisk was bad. So they get rid of this. They reassign all these cops. Well, that's not going to solve anything, dude. What you need to do is stop, say, okay, let's start putting together a plan. Let me tell you something. When it comes to the conversation about reparations, what do they propose? An exploratory committee to view what the best way is. That's what you do. You want to abolish the police, you want to defund the police, you don't get rid of this unit. What you say is, hey, we're going to undergo a review and we're going to start working on new procedures, new techniques, new methodologies to keep crime subdued and protect the civil rights of our citizens. That's what you do. And that's why reform is the right way to do it. Let me just show you the story, man, from the Wall Street Journal. Check this out. Law enforcement officials in several large U.S. cities are wrestling with a sharp rise in violent crime amid a national debate over the role of police, calls to reduce police departments' budgets, and growing fiscal troubles. Some cities are on track to have their most violent summers in years. In Milwaukee, homicides are up 37% so far this year, on pace to break the record of 167 in 1991, which included 16 murders by Jeffrey Dahmer. Oh my, jeez, dude. Wow. You had to hear the record-breaking year because of the serial killer guy everybody knows. Homicides so far this year in Chicago are ahead of the pace of 2016, which marks the city's highest tally since 96. In New York and LA, which have seen falling numbers of homicides for years, killings this year are up 23% and 11.6% respectively. Kansas City, Missouri has recorded 99 killings since January, far outpacing any record for the first 6 months of the year. Police departments already face budget cuts around the U.S., the result of falling tax revenues from pandemic lockdowns. COVID-19 has also made it difficult for officers to safely conduct community outreach, say experts, worsening police community relations. Add on top of that, man, defund the police. Talk about, you know what, man? Police this year, they got smacked down from budget cuts over COVID. People weren't shopping. They weren't spending things. People weren't working. Taxes dropped dramatically. Then the riots happened and they demanded defunding. That was like, kicking the cops when they were down, man. Everybody's on edge. Take a look at this. Heating up year-to-date change from last year, Milwaukee. Look at Philadelphia, dude. Philadelphia, 53.8% from 19.8%. What is it? They say data as of Milwaukee, July 7th. These are the dates. I guess this is the percentage increase, I suppose. Atlanta's seeing an increase, but Philadelphia, man. I live in the Philadelphia area, man. I don't want to hear this stuff. Community groups acknowledged the crime increase, but say more aggressive policing to combat it shouldn't come at the expense of enacting broader reform. This is not a quick fix, said VJ Smith, national president of Minneapolis-based Mad Dads, a group that acts as a buffer between the community and police by trying to de-escalate violent situations. I like that. That sounds good. The only way to unite a community is to build it first. Amid revenue shortfalls and calls to defund police, Art Acevedo, Houston police chief and head of the Major Cities Chiefs Association, said cities are now slashing police budgets without plans in place to reallocate funds or replace functions typically performed by police. You don't tear down the building you're living in until you have a new building to move into. That's exactly what I'm saying. Bravo, good sir. You need to take the cops you got. You need to look over all the complaints. You need to figure out what the activists are saying and say, what's a plan to slowly start reducing these problems? Hey, guess what? Maybe the plan is to get rid of stop and frisk. Okay, all right. How about instead of just snapping your fingers and reassigning 600 cops, you reassign 10 of those cops. And then every month you reassign 10 more. And if the crime starts going up, you stop. And then you start talking with the activists again and say, what should we do? Now, I know the activists might not accept it, but you can't just, no more cops. We're getting rid of the crime. Look, man, it's a tough question between freedom and security. I always side on the side of security. You know what this means? If you want to have your civil rights, that means you're going to see an increase in crime. It's true. That's not a bad thing. It's about freedom. It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. Ben Franklin took that up to 100. Think about what that means. You got 100 innocent people in New York City being stopped and frisked. I'm just saying arbitrarily. And you say these people, are more likely to be committing crimes. That's what Bloomberg was saying. So you violate their Fourth Amendment rights. Nah, I'm not okay with that. So you stop. Then you see that a decent amount of them are actually, intending to commit a crime or something like that. But a decent amount does not mean all, majority, or even many. In a lot of circumstances in New York with stop and frisk, it was a slim percentage that ever did anything. The reality is, I think you can take these 600 cops and you can put them on patrol or something. So they're not, they were. Don't have them stop and frisk, just have them active. Or maybe you need more cops. Therein lies the big challenge. When you slash the budget and call for abolishing the police because of the police brutality, you make it worse. Check it out. You want cops to do better? Maybe that you get a good bonus. If you get no complaints, you get a bonus at the end of the year. How does that sound? It's really, really, really hard because some people complain for no reason. But if you have a low amount of complaints, then you're doing a better job. Okay, right? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm just off the top of my head. Maybe you say this. Instead of slashing the budget, increase it so you have more cops so you don't need to use the level of force or there's just less crime in general. Maybe the solutions are counterintuitive. But if you've got an increase in crime and you call for abolishing the cops and you beat the cops when they're down, they'll be demoralized. Crime will get worse. You slash their budget. Crime just gets worse. Not an answer, man. Not an answer at all. City leaders and law enforcement officials say the months of lockdown, rising unemployment, more guns on the street, and the fallout from mass protests helped create conditions for more violence. This was a perfect storm, said Milwaukee Police Chief Alfonso Morales. We had a series of events that many of us probably never experienced in our time. At the same time, law enforcement officials say they are weighing the risks of aggressively enforcing the law, concerned that a backlash from activists, protesters, and residents could trigger attacks on police or a replay of the riots and looting that marked some of the earlier protests. In some cases, officials say police are backing away from some kinds of petty crime arrests that give them a higher profile on the street, hoping to quell tensions. It's a lot more dangerous to become an officer, said Ray Kelly, New York City's former long-standing commissioner. Not a big fan of that guy. Many people weren't. What you see is a backing away. New York City disbanded its anti-crime unit of plainclothes officers on June 15th, part of a $1 billion reduction in the city's police budget. The city logged 205 shootings in June, the highest for the month since '96. Police cited the release of some prisoners from Rikers amid coronavirus concerns and bail reforms that went into place earlier in the year. So it might not even be the end of stop and frisk. It could be coronavirus. You know what the problem is? If that's true, we don't know. Yo, man, we need to slow down. Take our time, track the data, and make improvements. to snap your fingers, cut the budget, release the prisoners was not a smart thing to do. I always tell this to people, when I used to do more conflict stuff on the ground. When you see a group of people running and screaming, the last thing you should be doing is running and screaming. You have seconds, but you need to assess your surroundings at all times to understand everything happening around you. And here's an example. When I was in Venezuela, we had a group of protesters to my left. Down the street, a group of Venezuelan National Guard. At one point, I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go away from them so that we were standing and we could see both groups. You couldn't really see both groups, but so that we were not, sort of in between them. And we'll hang out here to see if anything happens. Well, all of a sudden, the protesters start running. I believe they're running north, screaming. And so that's why I told people, don't run with them. You don't know what they're running from. Run the other way. Okay, the reason I'm telling you the story is that instinctively, many people just saw one person run north, so they all ran north. You don't know what they're running from. You need to stop. You have a split second. It's not easy, but you got to think about what you're doing. Now, with all the problems with the riots and everything, you've got to stop for a second, assess, not just snap your fingers, because it clearly did not work. I'm going to wrap it up here because I do try to keep these short, but you get the point, man. The whole thing is backfired, and it's just going to get worse. Now is not the time. Now is not the time. Now is the time to actually make sure we're maintaining these budgets. I know things are bad with the tax base eroding and with the unemployment, but we got to keep things stable, man, now more than ever. I got one more segment for you in a few minutes. Stick around. I will see you all shortly.